the crews are glued to their televisions at the moment. 1 corner to run now for Van Gisbergen. It is Shane Van Gisbergen that grabs the pole.
We had one of those weekends where everything just lined up in terms of faultless performance from every member of the team.
And that's what Shane and the team did so well, is in maximising what wasn't necessarily the fastest car in the day, and then doing it again the next day.
Shane Van Gisbergen lines it up towards the checkered flag, and it's 2 from 2 at Bathurst. It's the big question of the weekend, and in fact I think the great question of the 2021 Repco Championship season. Will he or won't he? How's this going to play out?
This is going to be so tough. You've broken your collarbone, you've had the surgery, you're trying to recover. He's a pretty tough, robust bloke, and he's leading the championship. He probably wants to stay on board, but whether he can do it or not, who knows?
Everything we did in our spare time involved something with an engine and wheels. Back then I knew that he was going to be involved in motorsport in some way or the other. I actually wanted him to be a rally car driver. I love rallying. Rallying's just #1. I never knew he'd be a champion, but I knew that he was always going to be involved in some sort of motorsport because I love my quad bikes as well, and I love speedway. He was always trying to go quicker and quicker and quicker. And that's been our life. We've always been racing each other.
The most versatile driver you will ever meet. He can drive anything.
Shane is he's the ultimate racer. He lives and breathes it every day. It's pretty much all he thinks about.
Shane's got oodles of ability, and he's got that little bit of pleasant mongrel about him as well.
He's so strong and so hard to beat, and makes so few mistakes, if any.
He's only ever been a racing driver. I don't think he's ever even had another job.
Doesn't care about anything else, you know. There's nothing else is really important.
He was so fast, and it was sort of like, who's this guy? Where's he come from? Shane had something special, you know, there's that X factor.
Supercar champion and Bathurst 1000 winner Shane Van Gisbergen grew up on the rural outskirts of Auckland, New Zealand. His father, Robert, a former successful rally driver, encouraged and mentored Shane into motorsport from an early age. From the very first moments, it was very clear Shane on wheels was a totally natural fit.
The youngest memories of motorsport were going to Dad's rallies and rally sprints, and you know, I was always firstly sitting on his lap driving around the farm, and then eventually got my own cars and was driving around the farm in bombs, but yeah, always loved it. Speedway and quad bikes we started in, just kept moving up the ranks from there.
First official race meeting was in his little quad bike. He loved it, absolutely loved it. I thought, oh, well, here we go. We're going to have to do this again.
It would have been about 12 or 13, and that's when the first early memories growing up with Shane, you know, at the kart track, and sort of came on the scene. We knew he'd been doing a bit of dirt stuff, and then when he arrived, it was sort of in the background, and then before we knew it, he was on the pace, and we're sort of like, who's this guy? Where's he come from? The competitive element, it's just always there. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything involved wheels and racing and beating each other, and I think, you know, to this day it shines through.
Oh, he actually had his own column.
Well, it's 2003, representing the school in the go-karts, so letter from the headmaster. He was just into everything. He was soccer, rugby, every sport that was going he would play, and he was very competitive against his father, even if it was just table tennis or something. Every team he played with, he played hard, and he just enjoyed it.
Competing on dirt was deeply embedded in Shane's DNA. But he also displayed special skill the moment he commenced circuit racing.
16 years of age, where's your future? Where to now for Shane Van Gisbergen?
Yeah, well, I don't know. We're sort of maybe in New Zealand V8 or Toyota Racing Series. We're going to see what happens.
His early success in Formula First, Formula Ford, and the Toyota Racing Series attracted widespread attention.
I'd heard his name, and then it was Shane Van Gisbergen on pole position. It was for the Toyota race, and I went and had a quick look, and of course he just destroyed everybody in that race.
Colin Giltrap, a Kiwi businessman and well-known supporter of young open-wheeler drivers, saw the potential. And so did some Kiwis across the Tasman in supercars.
He just started to talk by doing his driving thing, and things escalated very, very quickly.
He had an opportunity which the Giltrap family had put to us, that they were prepared to help Shane in his single-seater career, and all of a sudden on the table was a supercars drive. He had to make a choice. I said, mate, you're going to sleep on it? I want you to think about it seriously. God damn it, he woke me up in the bloody morning, first thing. I've made my mind up, I'm doing supercars. I said, oh, okay, that's fine.
After a dream start to the championship, a nightmare unfolded for Van Gisbergen and the team.
Now we've got to jump straight into the big story for round two, and that of course is Shane Van Gisbergen, our championship leader, carrying a pretty serious injury. He actually broke his left collarbone that very same day, went into hospital to have surgery, and has been racing against the clock to be fit and ready to go.
My honest appraisal is, I think they're crazy. I wouldn't run him this weekend, Jess. I just think the risk versus reward is way too high.
We're out mountain bike riding. Obviously decided to go up with Shane, and luckily enough, I was just bringing up the rear. I'll let those two guys up the front go hammer and tong. So Jet was, right on the back of Shane, and
he's gone over this real small double, and as he's come down, he's just gotten his front wheel hooked on the side of a rock that was sticking out that far-ish, out of the ground.
Hit a rock, landing on a silly jump, and it was pretty nasty for a pretty small crash.
I got a phone call. Dad, I need to know my Medicare number. I said, I've hurt myself. I've broken my collarbone.
Shane's father called me. He said, oh, Shane's had a bit of a shunt. Told me what had happened. Yeah, I said, it wasn't a motocross bike, was it? Because it was a motocross bike, he's in the shit. Because we'd already agreed, he'd been on at me to land to do motocross at some level during the season. I said no.
Conversation I had with RD, I think he might have tore him a new one.
Even RD had given up on me. Like, I went into work the week before for a pre-brief, and he took one look at me, and I got quickly removed from most conversations.
And then I gave Shane a call to say, mate, you haven't lost your job. We're all going to be okay here.
I didn't know what I was going to be like, 2 weeks later.
Off the back of emergency surgery, the race was on. Would Shane be fit? Or would Garth Tander jump in at short notice?
I got to say, I was pretty disappointed. I remember swearing very loudly. I thought we'd have Garth driving the car.
Good morning, Jess. Good morning, everyone. So yes, plenty going on down here in the garage.
At that point, it was very early on in the championship, and in my head, I was just telling myself that that's okay. We can still win the championship, even if we miss a round. We can still do it.
The main prize in supercars is the Drivers' Championship. And if you throw a backup driver in, you're not scoring points for that Drivers' Championship. Team's points, yes, very important, but it is the second trophy, the team's trophy to the championship.
This is our second event of the Supercars Championship for our brand new season.
I've told him that every day. I'm like, mate, if you feel you can't do it, there's no pressure from us to do it.
Don't make it worse and
yeah.
have an issue.
Exactly.
It's the big question of the weekend, and in fact I think the great question of the 2021 Repco Championship season, Supercars Championship season. Will he or won't he? How's this going to play out? Shane Van Gisbergen.
You go out, do your thing, you know where we stand with everything.
Yeah,
you feel it.
After the first lap, I think.
Yeah, mate. So, you do your thing, have some fun, bro. You'll be right.
Shane Van Gisbergen for Team Kiwi in position 19. So not a bad start to your V8 supercar career.
He came onto the scene in Australia and it was like, okay, who's driving the Team Kiwi car this time around?
A Stone Brothers Racing prepared Ford Falcon and an 18-year-old at the helm from Auckland doing a pretty fair job.
It was like, okay, who's this kid? And I mean, how come he's in a supercar and he's this young and he's got no, doesn't have experience?
Well, he's made himself up 10 spaces since this race started.
And then I went down to Oran Park. It's an awesome track in a Formula Ford, but in a supercar it was horrible, so narrow and tight, and it was a shock. I thought I was good because I was New Zealand Formula Ford champ or something, but everyone in the field was a Formula Ford champ at some point.
Have you been given a reasonable welcome by different blokes that you've spoken to, or everybody ignoring you?
Said hello to a few guys and haven't had really any in-depth chats with them, but I'll try and get to know them and make friends with a few, I hope.
He was very shy back then, really wasn't interested in engaging too much. Pretty much like he is today.
One lap to go.
One lap, exactly.
Van Gisbergen's got the lead of the race.
And they love it. They've waited a long time. No Kiwi driver has won here in Hamilton. And right now, this youngster who's electrified the sport has them standing. He's held them off. Shane Van Gisbergen, a moment to remember. He's going to go off. This is the day the wild child arrived in the V8 Supercars. Victory for the Giz at home. And that's one for the Kiwis.
First win on home soil at this event. That is incredible. How's that feel for you?
Oh, can you believe it? Yeah!
Kiwi driver Shane Van Gisbergen has quit the sport for personal reasons at the age of just 23. Considered the next big thing, Van Gisbergen has been granted a release from the final 3 years of his contract with Stone Brothers Racing to return to New Zealand.
I think he'd made his mind up that he'd had enough. I mean, you have to speak to him about that, but from the outside looking in, he definitely had enough of it.
I can't publicly talk about that too much anyway, but it got resolved and we move on and get going again.
Practice 1, Repco Supercars Championship. We're at Sandown International Raceway. Event number 2. It's clear skies and cooler temps here in Melbourne, and Van Gisbergen is the talking point. This is the moment of truth for Shane. Shifting gears in his left hand, leaping those brutal curbs, especially turns 2 and 3. He's going to know pretty quickly, Mark, whether this is on or not.
He's done a terrific job at rehab. He got straight into the, we used a hyperbaric chamber at the Gold Coast, just maximising the amount of goodness that you can get into him, and gives him a chance to rest and let things come together.
Everyone worked really hard in that period, all these sort of medical team and the entire team, to make sure that we could do everything possible to make sure that he could compete at Sandown.
There was no doubt he was in a lot of pain that weekend, but it's he didn't want to show that either. He didn't want to look weak.
He had no idea if he was going to be able to compete or not. It was literally what he said on the weekend was, "I'll just know at turn 2."
Jumped in the car, I was still in a lot of pain, but as soon as I drove out, I could warm the tyres, I could turn.
This next corner is the story, because the curb here is aggressive. Check this loadout. Bang, over the curb.
And then I hit turn 2 curb there, which was quite violent, and I didn't feel anything at all, which was quite a surprise. So then I knew I'd be fine.
And if we stay with him, we'll show the next spot. When you go to the left, it makes a huge difference. And when you go to the left, you're also smashing over the curb.
But up to turn 6, as soon as I turned in and had to use my core, I felt my ribs, something inside wasn't quite right. When I went and saw the doctor after and to check everything was fine, I said, oh, can you x-ray my ribs? I don't feel that good. 2 were completely broken, 1 was just cracked, so it was a bit crazy.
I don't know how you're feeling there, mate, but you're still fast.
It was obviously pretty touch and go whether he was going to be able to race. You know, he genuinely didn't know his ribs were broken. I think afterwards he said, you know, thank God I didn't know that was part of it.
Currently P1 with an 85 and maybe P2 with an 851.
He's only 8/100ths quicker than Whincup and he's P1. So there's a statement off the bat.
Shane's decision to walk away from the sport for personal reasons in late 2012 and the final 3 years of his contract with Stone Brothers Racing came as a shock for many.
A little bit of a sad ending to the relationship with Ross and Jimmy, but I think that's not the only disaster that's happened in the Supercars story over the years, and just move on.
He was effectively being traded from one racing team to a new racing entity. And at any point, if you put yourself in Shane's position, you're an asset to the business. But do you want to be part of the new team? And is it a risk in terms of your future? And I think what he did in the end is he manipulated the system very well in terms of his claimed retirement and the miracle comeback in a period of time to get back into a holding camp that was far more suitable. And I think from a career perspective, it was a pretty smart thing for him to have done.
Only 8 weeks later, Van Gisbergen was announced to drive for Techno Autosports in a 888 built car, backed by Tony Quinn at VIP Pet Foods.
The rediscovery of Shane when he retired, he was fed up with the whole politics of the thing, and then we convinced him to come back to the V8s and join Techno. And, you know, very pleasantly won every race at Clipsal.
At the end of season 2012, there was a massive question mark over the future of this young Kiwi superstar. Well, now there are no questions. The Holden VF Commodore and Techno Autosports get their first win. The Gears is the Clipsal champion of 2013.
So far, it's 6 career poles for Van Gisbergen. Bathurst has not been a great stage for him over the years.
And this is where the commitment is required. He uses every bit of road. There's nothing left. 1/10 up on the fastest time thus far.
Van Gisbergen with 1 green box and it becomes 2. Gets it stopped cleanly, it turns in, finds his apex, picks up the throttle hard and early. It's a great lap from Van Gisbergen. And he goes to the top. 2 minutes, 6.3 from the Kiwi. That is a great lap in these conditions.
Shane dominated the 2014 Bathurst 1000 shootout. The tiny Techno outfit had built into a formidable force under the leadership of Steve Hallam and the engineering of Jeff Slater. Sunday race day was Shane's to claim. Together with teammate Jonathan Webb, they displayed race-winning pace. It seemed clear to all this was their time to claim the coveted title of Bathurst champions. Only one final pit stop stood between Shane and Bathurst glory.
Yeah, mate, we're only giving you fuel, mate. Tires are staying on, so fuel only, mate, fuel only.
Here is the race leader, Shane Van Gisbergen. He's got a margin of 12 seconds. They're going to squeak him in here. Let's watch and listen.
Nice and easy, nice and easy. Beautiful. When you drop, you're good to go, you're good to go. Still good, still good. Go, 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 go.
Oh, he stalled it. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds.
Start up, start up, start up. Won't stop.
This is murdering Shane Van Gisbergen.
My heart sank, everything just was like,
One go.
You're kidding me.
How is this possible?
The race leader can't get car number 97 started.
But I was right there in the lane and I just was in disbelief that it had happened.
And he's out of the car after one of the great drives. A superb pole position yesterday. His first pole position ever. He's an extraordinary talent, Brianna.
Shane.
But that was heartbreaking.
Only just going to the trailer. That sums it up, guys.
I did say to him, I said, mate, there's another race. There's another Bathurst, you go again. I've never ever wanted that to happen. It's probably been something that made Shane stronger and better.
I'm not emotional towards that at all. It's something that happened. We got to understand the reasons for why it happened. And, you know, that was it.
All those things are used as motivation. It's unfinished, you know, unfinished business. And it took him a little while from, you know, it wasn't like it was 12 months later. It took him a little while for him to get that first one. But, you know, there'll be more of those too.
Shane Van Gisbergen, there's been a lot of focus and chat about him so far this weekend, and in both sessions inside the top 5. So now we play a qualifying game.
Once you go, once the game's on, he'll be a little bit sore tonight. Of course he will.
He'll be fucking feeling it on Sunday night, but
yeah,
obviously not doing any more damage to it. He'll be right.
No, that's right.
Our championship scenario, Van Gisbergen came away from Bathurst with the best possible score that you could achieve. And then on the Saturday following, he went mountain bike riding and he dropped it. He's broken his left collarbone. And then there was a huge question mark around whether or not he would even be able to drive the car today. So,
Okay, mate. Here's those, mate. You know what you've got. One flying lap, please. One flying lap.
we made the remark in that earlier practice session, Mark, that he just looks like business as usual in there at the moment. He's manipulating the brake bias control, the rapid shift. He's making gear shifts. He's catching slides. He's making anti-roll bar changes on the run.
Should I go again or pit? Stay up it, go again.
So who's not going to get there, Mark? So Van Gisbergen's down in 16th at the moment, but he's done the fastest mid-sector. There he is. Did he move up? No.
No.
Okay, mate. A little bit off there. P17, mate. P17.
A lot of big names that have missed out. Van Gisbergen, Pye, Reynolds, Hazelwood, Percat. There's a lot of serious operators that aren't in the 10.
Yeah, I don't think it's him. I think his car wasn't right.
Yeah. How's he going?
Yeah, like I said, his ribs are sore up.
What went wrong there?
Oh, I just didn't drive well enough and didn't get the tyres phased good enough, and we just didn't quite make it.
And can I ask the obvious question, mate, related to the bit of pain you're experiencing? Not at all.
No,
so just a. No, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
try again in the race.
Can't be more honest than that. Thanks, pal.
The sharing of data between the 888 and Techno teams provided Roland Dane and his group with the perfect window to assess Shane's skills up close. They knew Van Gisbergen had the credentials to become a champion.
We had a really good chat with Roland, and my dad was there also. He came over for it and worked out what it was going to look like in future and how the team was going to work, expanding to 3 cars. It didn't take much selling, you know, it's obviously the top team, but the way he said it was going to run and how they'd, you know, mould me into winning a championship, it was something I was pretty attracted to.
In his first race with 888, Shane made the podium, and by the second event in Tasmania, he took the top step as a winner. The 3-car 888 juggernaut of Lowndes, Whincup and Van Gisbergen was difficult to beat.
888 Race Engineering, 1, 2 and 3.
The signs were evident. The deeper into the season, the greater the momentum.
Shane Van Gisbergen is running hot in this championship and he closes the margin.
By the end of the season, Shane had more pole positions, race wins and podiums than any other driver.
Shane Van Gisbergen is the winner on the streets of Sydney Olympic Park. Number 1, 2016 McGiz. What a season.
I didn't expect that for the first year at Triple Eight. You know, I always hoped I could jump in and go straight up the front.
It was always going to happen. We knew that he was going to make it one way or another, whether that early opportunity didn't come up or not. He still would have, I think, have ended up being Supercar champion at some point.
It's still hard to put into words, like it's your life dream, life goals, I guess, and for that to happen was pretty special. It's a feeling I'll never forget, and you just want to experience it again.
How's that, eh?
There were plenty of people coming up to Roland saying, be careful, Shane's really hard to manage, you know, off track.
Rate the year for you as a driver. Give us a number out of 10 and why you've come up with that number.
I don't know. Next.
Every so often Shane will need a little bit of advice about some non-car stuff.
So for 2021 Supercars Championship, what is Shane Van Gisbergen's expectations for the year?
None. I never have any.
I get angry with his personality sometimes and the way he goes about it, and then other times that, you know, I think it's great.
Can you give us a bit of insight of what's happening?
No, that was over in February. Shit questions.
Shit questions. You couldn't even count to fucking 10.
He doesn't like the off-track activity. You've got Lounsey on one side and you've probably got SVG on the other. The less you can do, the better.
Going from test day to here, what some of the things you're going to have to look at to changing to, I guess when it comes to the car, trying to combat the heat as well?
Technical.
Obviously hoping for better results this year to last year.
I don't even remember how I went last year.
Crashed out in the second race.
Oh yeah? Nice.
He's just, yeah, Shane's, I mean, I think Shane's interviews are great, you know, he just says it how it is, he says it very straight.
Must be a pretty good feeling though, being second though, I guess.
I didn't even know I was second.
He just says how he feels, and he's a pretty straight up and down, a pretty black and white kind of person, so he's just no bullcrap, no bullshit, can I say that?
I don't like talking about that stuff.
Shane is such a complex person, but he keeps a wall up around himself. He's actually quite emotional. He's gonna kill me for saying that. He's genuinely, there's a lot more to him than meets the eye.
Shane's unique, isn't he? And I think he probably doesn't see the point in talking unless there's something to be talking about. So, you know, he's to the point and he is what he is.
Shane just wants to go racing, and you can't get paid to go racing without the commercial side.
The media side and the sponsorship partner side seems to be more than the driving, but I guess I have to tolerate it to be able to get to drive the best car.
It is the Penrite Oil Sandown Super Sprint. Event number 2, the Repco Supercars Championship of 2021. It'll be race 3 of 31.
Come on, grid bomb. Slow it up, slow it up. 3, 2, 1. Keep edging. Stop.
Rolling into position number 17 there was Van Gisbergen. This is the pole sitter, Chaz Mostert.
Green flag.
Event number 2. Let's get cracking with some Sandown Super Sprint racing action.
What a great start, absolutely superb. Great respect between Winterbottom and Waters to get through turn 2 and turn 3 together. As we go back to Van Gisbergen, he's trading punches with David Reynolds at the end of the back straight.
Great driving, mate. Make sure you have a look at those bars. Lap time's good. Eyes forward. Keep doing your thing.
Van Gisbergen up another spot, so he's up 6 positions.
I just had so much confidence at turn 1 especially to just throw it in on people and just make it known that I was coming through.
I think adrenaline is overriding pain at the moment.
No one really fought because I was in that mindset, like I'm 17th, I'm stuffed anyway, so if I crash into someone, it doesn't matter. And I think they all knew that and got out of the way.
He was like, I've got this injury. Everyone's going to think I'm hampered by this. Well, I'm going to prove them wrong. It's just typical Shane style. That's why he's one of the greatest race drivers in the world.
The rise and rise of Van Gisbergen was offset by the parallel success of fellow Kiwi Scott McLaughlin.
We are going to the flag with McLaughlin winning over Shane Van Gisbergen in a brilliant supercar return.
The two young New Zealanders pushed each other to the limit and beyond, setting new standards and a world-class benchmark.
Two of the greatest drivers to ever sit their asses in a supercar.
They are locked in combat.
The combat between Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin raged for 4 solid seasons between 2017 and 2020.
They're going to end up being just a couple of car lengths apart.
You had to be very smart, and he definitely made me a smarter race driver.
Huge pressure, beautiful drive by both drivers and both teams, and that was a great motor race.
This was Kiwi versus Kiwi, GM versus Ford, and 888 Race Engineering versus Dick Johnson Racing. At times there was grace.
True sportsmanship in this game, and that's fantastic for Shane to be there.
On other occasions, open hostility, on and off the track.
Dives him down the inside, then sits him up. Scott has to pause on the throttle, and there goes Jamie.
That was pretty average, just a big push off at the end there. So yeah, I get he's playing the team game, but it would have been nice to have a bit more of a fair battle.
For the whole thing, I think you had a lot of gratitude towards each other and how much we really enjoyed those battles, enjoyed the rivalry we had, because it spurred us all on.
With national pride and the desire to beat the other now at boiling point, the Red Bull versus Shell team Battle of the Titans took a darker turn on New Zealand home soil.
At Pookie, the focus on them, clearly, obviously being two Kiwis, and the absolute desire and passion that they both had to win in front of that crowd. To be the one that was crowned the king over everybody else on that day, on that weekend, and be the top Kiwi.
Has he locked him in? That's an old trick where you park right up alongside and they can't get out.
I wanted to get out of the car and belt him, but it was all part of the championship thing, and I had to keep composed because at the same time, I didn't want to show my card that I was upset about it too much.
I look back on that now and it's embarrassing, because I honestly didn't park him in, but it made a good storyline for you guys, and then he beat us the next day.
I genuinely feel like Shane hurt himself more doing that than he helped himself, because it spurred not only me on, but my whole team.
That smoke signal spells success for Shell V-Power Racing in New Zealand.
We both relished the battles so many times. Many people got us to try to be utter rivals, including our team bosses, I believe. But at the end of the day, we just enjoyed the battle, and I think we're just two races from New Zealand that just love it.
For 3 successive years, McLaughlin gained the championship crown, and along the way, a controversial Bathurst victory in 2019.
26-year-old Kiwi Scott McLaughlin wins the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000 of 2019.
McLaughlin had earned a place in the big league. IndyCar beckoned. 2020 was their final showdown. Although the tension and emotions ran high, there was respect.
When I left Supercars, Roland, Shane, Jamie, even Craig were one of the first people that come up to me and said, good luck. I think when it comes to the end of our battle, for now, everyone showed their true colours.
At Bathurst in 2020, Shane responded in style.
The 31-year-old Kiwi is the master of Bathurst, and Shane Van Gisbergen takes victory at Mount Panorama.
You miss Scott McLaughlin?
Yeah, he's a good friend. We still race quite a lot on the computer and talk a bit, message each other a bit. I watch all his races, and getting to support him and be friends again, I guess, is pretty cool.
Because I'd love to race Bathurst with Shane. At the same time, I'm very loyal to my team DJR, and regardless, there'll be a few angry people if I did that. So unless he drives to DJR, probably not.
This is Dynamite by Shane Van Gisbergen.
The most versatile driver you will ever meet. He can drive anything.
And he's just taking to this four-wheel drive turbo rally car like a duck to water.
And not only drive it, he can win in major competitions in any type of car.
Shane Van Gisbergen is the champion in the Battle of Jacks Ridge. What a story!
He's been driving sideways and driving cars on all sorts of terrain for donkey's years and excelling in them all. A guy like him only takes a few minutes to adapt himself to the environment that he's in, and then he goes exploring at a very, very high percentage level.
When I was at Stone Brothers, I wasn't allowed to do anything else, which was fine. I just focused on that, but you only get to race 12, 13 weekends a year or a couple more, so getting to race, experience different teams and cars, I think I really thrived on that. I think Roland understood, you know, I'm happiest when I'm driving, but I'm always learning and trying to get better.
As a teenager, Shane had to make a tough decision: pursue single-seat racing cars or strap into supercars in Australia. He chose the latter, but the desire to drive other machinery remains undiminished. Coupled to the lure of adding his name to the impressive roll call of New Zealand Grand Prix winners, Shane tackled the New Zealand Grand Prix at the beginning of the 2021 season.
Before the Grand Prix started, for some stupid reason, I pushed the fire button, which wasn't very good, and got the car started, and as I was driving down pit lane, the light went red, so yeah, I thought it was all over, and 5 minutes to go, the spark plugs were still out of it. You know, they were cleaning it all out, so I thought it was all over, but ended up okay.
When he's up against it, he won't be bothered by the fact that he's got to start from pit lane, but Shane's got all the experience to turn it into something special. Lights are out and we're ready to go racing. Away they go!
He's not only extraordinarily talented as a driver, but also as a thinker, and that makes him a formidable opponent.
So Shane Van Gisbergen is moving up, and very quickly moving up too.
It was a very special scenario that played out in 2021 for the New Zealand Grand Prix.
And he does go through. Brilliantly done by Shane Van Gisbergen.
Shane was in just an amazing space.
Here comes Shane Van Gisbergen up the inside into second place now.
If anyone doubted he was going to get in that car and not be fast and at the front of the field, then they obviously don't know who he is.
Van Gisbergen takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff. And the 97 will finally take his turn of winning the Grand Prix of New Zealand.
It was just another part of the whole fairy tale. And just all those things came together and probably just had him being so tuned and wired for driving race cars. And is that why he came out the gate and just smashed everybody? Is that part of the whole thing? You'd have to say it probably is.
To be able to go from 17th to 5th, pick up 12 positions, is remarkable.
Beautiful, mate. Just ready to go. Go, 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 go. Cold green rear tyres. Adjust that rear bar's good. Cold green rear tyres. Cold green, mate.
We questioned him even driving, let alone being able to compete at this level.
He was off the back. He was mid-pack or something, and just so much pace. I could see him coming. I could see him coming for 5 or 6 laps.
So he's getting closer and closer and closer.
The pace he had was incredible. He was going so fast, yet not burning the tyres out somehow.
We've got a great battle on between Mostert, Waters and Whincup, and closing in from afar is Shane Van Gisbergen.
And while I was still messing around trying to pass, I think it was Cam Waters and Chaz at the time, he just didn't hesitate.
Cam Waters goes to the lead, but is it temporary? You've got Whincup up on the outside of Mostert. Here comes Van Gisbergen. He's gone on the inside, and Van Gisbergen's gone to second. That is unbelievable.
Awesome, mate. High forward, 6-lap tyre advantage on Waters.
Everything just worked perfectly in that race, and then The leaders sort of held each other up.
That is truly unbelievable to have suddenly grabbed 2 cars in that move.
I watched that move with Chaz and J-Dub. It was pretty cool. It was one of the best passes I've ever done.
Can he get around here? This is the one that we need to look at because he's doing the crisscross. He's got it done. He's able to get down the inside. Beautiful manoeuvre. And can he maintain this spot now?
They are side by side on the run down to 1. Waters is trying to squeeze. There is nothing between the cars. Look at the grin on their faces standing in the garage. They down on Prix. But Shane Van Gisbergen's got the lead of the motor race with 1 lap remaining.
He has done the most amazing job I've ever seen from Van Gisbergen today.
Unbelievable drive. Shane Van Gisbergen is the winner at Sandown.
Mate, that was absolutely incredible. That was so good. Well done.
With a broken left collarbone. Maximum points, picking up where he left off.
That's fucking mega.
And that is a relieved face of a 31-year-old Kiwi who's just pulled off one of the most remarkable drives in the history of the sport.
We managed to get away with that somehow. Not sure exactly how we did, but we did. Hi. You legend. You legend. As it turned out, we ended up winning every race. So that was one of the most meaningful race weekends of my career, and probably his.
And come on, Sandown, let's get nice and loud for your race winner today. Here comes the Miracle Man, SVG.
What a crazy story to have pretty much have one arm tied behind your back and come out and win all 3 races.
There's only one person in that whole field that could do that, and that's Shane. The guy is so strong, so mentally strong when he needs to be. He's literally unstoppable.
He's in the form of his career. I've been lucky enough to go through that era where you can't do no wrong. You've got massive self-confidence, you've got a massive skill level, you're on top of the game, you're ahead of the car, and Shane had that, and there was no one stopping him.
He is going to definitely be rated and given the honour of being one of the all-time best that we've ever seen.
In all, it's been a bloody great journey, and long may it continue. There's plenty more to come.
Yeah, I can always get better. I haven't got to the point where I think I've reached my maximum yet, and I don't think I surprise myself, but sometimes you keep jumping to other levels, and that's a pretty cool thing. But like championships or prize money, it doesn't motivate me. I just love being part of a team and winning races, and then wanting to do it again the next year.
There's no question that we became the team that we are today because of the competitive nature of AAA and what's required to beat them.
Man, I was a rookie trying to sort of just beat them or at least compete with them, and then by the end of it, they were trying to knock me off the top.
It actually goes back more of a generational thing, because my dad used to race against Roland, and they were fierce rivals as well in British touring cars back in the day.
So it's Vauxhall, Honda, Volvo.
All 3 of the organisations, Walkinshaw, FPR and Penske, they provided very, very formidable competition that we had to deal with.